Hello and welcome to my podcast, Hiraeth. I want to wish you a happy 2021 and I hope that your holiday season was beautiful and fun and all the things that holiday seasons ought to be. I know we are ready for a new year and I'm excited for 2021 after all the change and growth that has happened for everyone in 2020. I wish I had made podcasts this whole year. I think the last one I made was back in like April or May. I just sort of lost my steam for podcasting, like I know many people did. I don't know why. I just didn't feel like doing it. But I do want to keep it going because I think it is a fun project. And I think the more community that we can create, positive community, the better for everybody. And there are so many amazing podcasts out there, and it's just fun to share and meet people that you wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to meet. So I thought I would kind of recap maybe some of the year. No, I don't think I'll do that. I'm finding that I've been really wanting to podcast, but I haven't felt as if I know what to say. I've actually recorded a few podcasts and I put them all together and everything and just never uploaded them to the channel because I just felt like I was copying a lot of other podcasts and it just felt fake and not really true to myself or true to what I know I can produce. And so I'm also finding it hard to know what to say. And for me, so much has changed in this last year as far as like my viewpoints and my perspective on things, and it's just changed me so much that I hardly know myself, it seems. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced that, but I know I'll find my voice and eventually I'll get it down. So these episodes may be a little weird, but we'll see. I've knit more than I've ever knit in my whole life this year. I did a little bit of sewing, but not much. I have some beautiful fabric and patterns picked out to sew, but mostly I've just knit. I knit 2 sweaters. I'm working on a 3rd sweater. I knit probably 1, 2, 3 shawls. I've knit toys. I knit a top. Gosh, I've just gone crazy. I've knit so many things, which has been really great. I really love it because there's, you know how it is when you're looking through Ravelry and there's all these patterns that you want to create and you just think, when will I ever have the time to knit them? Like there's not enough time in the world to knit all these things. And 2, like how could I ever afford all the yarn that it would cost to make these projects? So it's exciting to actually get a little tiny bit closer to that ideal, which I love so much. And one thing I really wanted to focus on this year with the podcast, and perhaps with a blog, I'm not sure, is we all of us who knit, we love to make things, right? And we don't all knit for the same reasons. I understand that too. And I just know that part of creating things hand knit is that you can't go to a store and buy knitwear like this, right? And yes, the yarn can be quite expensive, but you will never experience anything, you'll never find anything like this in a store. And not only that, but this will last your whole life, maybe longer if you take good care of it. And same with your knitted clothing. And these are heirloom pieces and they're made with love. I mean, before my grandmother passed away this year, I knit her a shawl because I couldn't be there with her every single stitch passed through my fingers. And then when she was wrapped in that sweater, it was as if I could have given her a hug. Those are the kinds of things that we create as makers, as crocheters, knitters, sewists, all those things. And on top of that, just being more resourceful with what we have, you know, not rushing out to Target if we need a sweater, checking our thrift stores first, looking for natural fiber content sweaters instead of a acrylic or polyester sweater that we know when we wash those things, the polyester and the acrylic little tiny microfibers get into the water, which affects our ocean's ecosystem. And so those are the types of things that really inspire me to make. And plus I just love it. It's meditative and exciting to do the colors. And so I know that's something that I really want to be super focused on this year in 2021 is actual, like, creating pieces that I will love and that others will love if I make it for them, and being really forward with, instead of buying this, I would prefer to create it myself. Slow fashion, right? That's essentially what that is. You may notice I'm trying to avoid using words like intentional or what's the other word? Mindful. I'm really tired of those words. Those are great words, but they've been played out and now they've got these like kind of obnoxious, smug connotations that really drive me nuts. So like, I'm gonna try not to use them. I might slip them in on accident because it's, you know, something we all have to, like, it's become part of the mainstream vocabulary these days, but I'm gonna try to use different words. And you can use them too, like anyone can use them. I'm just gonna not use them. So I guess I think I will start with finished objects. And of course, I'm wearing one of my finished objects. Pretty much every year I do Stephen West's Mistering It Along. I've done it the last 5 years, 4 years. I've done it the last 4 years. This is my 4th one. And if you've never knit a Stephen West shawl, I urge you to do so. They're not all crazy. Like, some of these are crazy. Like, right, this is a lot going on. And my other shawls are also like really bright. If you search the hashtags of his patterns, you'll see every type of color combination on this under the sun. Neutrals. Some people do this pattern all in one color, so all you see are the textures. So beautiful. Or like all different shades of one color. So like all different shades of blue, all different shades of creams, all different shades of hot pink, like anything. Or what I love about these is that you can use up every little last bit of yarn you have in many of his patterns, so that it makes it economical too. But as always, he knits each section to be exciting, or he designs each section to be exciting so that you're never bored. There's never like, oh, this is so boring. Because I've done those knit-alongs where you're like, ooh, this is super boring. And I ended up not finishing them. And you just never know. I try really hard to never peek at the hashtags so that I don't see, so I don't spoil it. Because I honestly go in you go in not knowing what this will look like. You just choose your colors. And then as you knit, like, out comes this crazy shawl. So if you're living under a rock and you've never seen this, like, maybe I can show you. But so this is the very first section, is this honeycomb beginning with slip stitches. And then it's got these gorgeously huge yarn over holes, which looks so elegant. Like if you're wearing like a black or a white and it's draped across your shoulder, it looks so beautiful. I think I've said this before, at least I have on my Instagram page. I'm not really super nuts about my colors, but by the time I had knit this whole section, see, you're striping it every other one, and I just was like, I don't want to unravel that. Like, I'm not going to unravel that and pick new colors. Like, no. So I just kept going, and once I finished, I did end up really enjoying the colors a lot more, but definitely not my favorite. But the shawl itself is so gorgeous. Who cares? Like, they still look amazing. So yeah, and then next you have this beautiful slip stitch, more slip stitch. This shawl was called the Slip Stravaganza because that's pretty much all you're doing. Here's the triangles, more slip stitches, and zigzags with some yarn overs. Very well, pretty easy. There's a few things in here that are a little challenging if you're a beginning knitter, but the slip stitches are all very easy. This is something that an adventurous beginner who's determined could definitely take on, especially with all the online tutorials that the designer gives and that are on the Ravelry pages. But yes, I used Madeline Tosh yarn, which is one of my favorites. Like, it's kind of my go-to because it's relatively affordable and the color range is fabulous. You kind of can't get away from how many colors they have. And I love single ply. It's my favorite. Probably would have had more stitch definition if I'd used applied yarn, but that's fine. So yeah, I have a Ravelry project page for it. My Ravelry name is ACD Merit, M-E-R-R-I-T-T. I can put it somewhere around here in the box, description box or whatever. If you want to look at what yarns I use and the colors and all that, and my needle sizes, and anything else. And then once you're there, you can really look at everything that everyone's done, which is so much fun. So that's one of my finished objects. Oh, and another one of my finished objects, which I don't have with me because I gave it as a Christmas gift, is a little knit bear for my 3-year-old nephew. The pattern is called Panda, just Panda, by Susan B. Anderson. And as you may know, like, she designs tons of little toy patterns, which are super fun to knit. They're usually seamless. So you just knit them all up and you don't have to sew anything on. You pick up stitches and knit, which I love. I don't mind, but I don't love sewing on the little ears and the little arms. Like, everything's picked up and added. So this was I'll put maybe like right over here, I'll put a little picture of the finished object. It came out so cute. It's fairly large. It's about 8 inches tall, about this. And then he's got little legs on the bottom. So he ends up being a good like foot tall. So he's a sizable little bear. I used a sport weight yarn for the bear. And he is supposed to be a panda, but I didn't have enough white yarn quantity. So I just did a black bear. And I had a beautiful linen wool blend yarn with like all this drape that I held double to make his little dapper sweater. And once I finished knitting him and I sewed on his little nose and oh my gosh, like his little bum is kind of flat. And so it kind of like, so he can sit, right? But when you hold him kind of like a baby, you can kind of like put his little bum can rest in your hand and you can hold him just like a baby. I was like, whoa, I might need to knit myself one of these bears. And of course, my 2 children really wanted me to knit them each one. It's a very easy knit, very satisfying. The instructions were super clear, so I recommend anyone to make it just for the joy of making this. It's so cute, and it's got the sweater, as you can see, has a little hood with a little tassel. I mean, and the buttons. It was a hit, and apparently my nephew loves it. He sleeps with it. I stuffed it with leftover wool. I have a billion wool scraps. Like, every time I weave in ends and I cut the little bits off, I put them in a giant basket. And I save them for when I have to stuff toys, because when you stuff with wool, it gives it just a little bit more weight than, say, like a polyfill that you can get. I mean, which I use that too. But if I have enough of the wool scraps, it makes this just really pleasant weight for stuffed toys. I'm going to show you my giant basket of scraps so you can see what I mean. So this is my basket. As you can see, here it is. And what I do is every time I say, oh, see, look, here's all my woven in ends from this shawl. And here's from last year's shawl. And then also I've got little, like, this was a project that I didn't really like. It didn't turn out very well, so I'll just cut it up and use that. But I just put all my little bits and bobs in here, and it's a giant wad of wool. And then I use this for stuffing. And it makes, like I said, just a really fabulous, slightly denser, not too heavy, but a very nice feel for stuffed toys. Plus, then you're not wasting it. So those were my 2 finished objects that I have for now. I didn't actually do as much knitting for Christmas as I always wish I could. Really, we ought to be starting like right now and planning our gifts a little better, right? At least I should. Like, I wish I could knit each person in my family a pair of socks. Like I could easily knit a pair of socks in a month, right? Easily, like have it on the side, pick it up, do a few rows, and then by the end of the year, have beautiful socks to give away at Christmas time. I have yet to accomplish that. I haven't done that yet. If you have, send your tips, because like I don't know how to make that happen except just to do it. And of course the knitted toys are always kind of my go-to because they're quick. And I find that nowadays kids, including my own, have every toy. They already have toys. They've got enough plastic bits. They don't need clothes. I mean, sometimes, but so I find a knitted toy kind of cuts through all the Christmas noise because it's just so unusual. People don't see things like that, especially children. They don't see things like that, and there's something really magical about a handmade toy. So if you've never made one, definitely give it a try because it's a great present for a kid who has every toy. And you might explain to their parent if they're not excited about it, then maybe the parent should have it because the last thing we want is to work for hours and hours on a toy that a child is not interested in. Like that's always hard. But I think if people know that it's handmade, it'll become a really special piece. So I guess I'll move on to some of my works in progress. I have kind of a lot. I don't know if I'll do them all. But my big one that I've been working on and probably should have had done at Christmas time is this sweater. I only have the sleeve with me. I've finished the whole body. And the reason I kind of lost steam on this sweater, it's a Lopi Icelandic yoked sweater that I'm knitting. And I read the chart wrong and I did the color work wrong. I mean, this looks fine. It's fine, but it's not the correct pattern. It's not the correct pattern at all. So that kind of took the winds out of my sails and annoyed me, and so it's kind of just been sitting. Also, it's boring. I hate DPNs a lot. I hate magic needle. I hate knitting sleeves. I think next time I would almost rather knit it flat and seam it. I don't like knitting in the round with these dumb, fiddly, obnoxious, pokey things. Like, ugh, it drives me crazy. And it's so boring. They don't call it Sleeve Island for nothing, right? Like, you're stranded. And you gotta sit on that island until you're done. So, so yeah, that's a big one. I got the actual like Let Lopi Icelandic yarn, which I really love. I love wool and I love scratchy wool and I like rustic wool. We'll find out if the recipient also likes this kind of wool. But what I love about it the most is that it's got little bits of like vegetable matter in it, which apparently just made it through all the way from Iceland. So there's some like Icelandic grass that made it in here, which I think is really cool. And it's got kind of, it's, you know, it's fuzzy and flecky and furry. And I do know that when you wash and block it, it does soften up. But it's still a bit, it's intense. So again, it does not bother me. And the person who I'm making it for goes sailing quite often. So I'm hoping this will be an excellent, really, really warm sweater for when he is sailing. So that is one of my main projects that I really ought to be working on all the time and just bust it out because I've done all the color work. I just need to do the boring stockinette parts. Let's see. Here's another one that I'm working on. This is another Stephen West shawl. This is like, this is the Excuse Me shawl. It is a brioche pattern. This is one of the first Stephen West shawls I ever knit. And I think this is how I learned to knit brioche, was on this shawl. So I've already knit one. Unfortunately, I did a black and a white graphic brioche stripe. And when I soaked the shawl in cool water, it bled black all over the white. It looked so terrible and I was devastated because it was my favorite shawl. I wore it all the time. When we lived in Colorado, I used a DK weight yarn, so it was huge. This is a fingering weight. And it was destroyed. I was devastated. I kept the yarn. I unraveled the whole thing, and I don't know if you can get black dye, over dye out of a white yarn and see if I can use it again. I may just like chuck the black yarn because I don't know how you're supposed to keep it from bleeding on other things. Like, What if you're out in the rain and it rains on you and you have like black dripping down? I don't understand how that works. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm knitting this again, and I'm using total budget yarns. You may notice this is the same yarn that I used for my daughter's Le Proof sweater cardigan that I made her. This was just like a super cheap Lion brand, like cotton polyester, cotton acrylic yarn, which I just really like the colorway. So I'm calling this my unicorn, excuse me, shawl, because I like these colors. They're fun, they're cute. I think it'll be, and because it's cotton, it might be a little less warm, so I might be able to wear it like in the springtime here in Phoenix. And then the contrast color is just a lace weight wool yarn that I don't even know where I got it. It's like a billion yards of this kind of yellow pinky yarn. You can see it better with these colors. I've made a million mistakes. I'm like a seasoned brioche knitter, and I'm good at fixing mistakes, but whoa, I don't know what I did. I made so many funky mistakes here I have to show because this is just funny. I feel like most people try to hide these things, but I'm just gonna own it. I don't know what happened here, but somehow I dropped this stitch. This is like at the very beginning of the freaking shawl. And so I'm just holding it together with this stitch marker. I guess I'll just tie it together with some yarn when I'm done. Yeah, I totally donked that up. And then, yeah, this, oh my gosh, yeah. It's just a train wreck over here, but no one will know but me and you. So anyway, it ends up being an asymmetrical shawl. I can't wait until I'm all finished because it's really light and it's very beautiful. I think it's gonna be super cute. My daughter's already like, can I have it? Oh, here's that. It's like 1,000 yards of lace. It's really pretty. It's got this kind of pink, peach, champagne sort of color. I had originally bought this to go with some cream colored yarn to hold double to make it kind of like a beautiful golden color. And when I put them together, it looked like vomit. So I decided to scrap that and chose different yarn. And so I think the only other work in progress that I'll share for right now is I had such a great time with this knit along, and I'm stalling on working on that Icelandic sweater, that I started working on the Winter Light Shawl. It's another knit along that Stephen West is hosting. And it has many of similar design elements as this one. Like it's gonna have similar to this section along the bottom, but just not the triangles, these like slip stitch bricks type things. And so I did not want to buy any more yarn because I don't have a lot of stash yarn, but I have some yarn that I've had for a really long time, and I just don't really want it to sit in there any longer. I want to use it, and to be honest, it's coming out really cool. So I have so here it is so far. Here's my main color, which is kind of this like midnight purpley blue tonal. This yarn and this lighter purple are a Malabrigo yarn that I bought ages ago in Fort Collins. And I've never been able to use them. I had planned them for so many things and just never used them. But so you've got this kind of starburst pattern, and my needles are really small, or short. And then you've got this bubble pattern and a fabulous, I used mohair for one of the little bubble dots you can see here. So the color is very similar, so you can't see, there's the little dots there of mohair. And this mohair is the hairiest mohair I've ever used ever. It's like everywhere. It's like woven in, it like rose beyond it. And then yeah, these bubbles here, I didn't read the instructions carefully enough. These bubbles are supposed to be half the size. So these are twice the size of the regular bubbles. I'm a little bummed, but oh well. And then I'm starting the slip stitch brick, which it's a little hard to see. It'll look better in the next couple of days as I get some more growth here, but so far I'm loving these colors. To me, it looks like a celestial sky, like the night sky, and maybe these are the stars, and this is like the nebulas or the night sky or a sunset or whatever. And I love the mohair. It's so soft too. So anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with that one, and I'm really excited about the colors. So that will be really cool. I do have one more work in progress. I can show it. This is a shawl that I made. I actually completed this shawl. This is the Together shawl by Sofia Kammerborn. She's a Swedish podcaster and knitwear designer. And I had finished it, and I bound it off and blocked it and everything, and it just was really small. Like I could barely wear it over my shoulders, and I like to do this where I can wrap it around and have the little sides, you know what I'm saying, dangling over the edge. And it just was too small. So I cast it back on. I took out the I-cord bind off, and I'm gonna add this whole ball on. So I'm just gonna knit till I'm done with this. Oh, and isn't it so drapey and beautiful? I love it. And then, because it is, the way the design is, it's kind of a shallow shawl. So I like my shawls to be kind of long and thinner, and this one's a bit shorter and like deeper. So what I was gonna do is I still have one more skein of this Ultra Pima cotton from Cascade Yarns, and I'm going to make really big tassels to go on either end of the very edge of the shawl. I got that idea from some other knitter. Ooh, I can't remember who. I think I just was looking through Ravelry, and I saw that someone had done that and made just like great big heavy tassels that would kind of help weight down the shawl so that it stays on. So I'm really looking forward. I feel like this is such a great desert color. It's so popular right now. Like I'm kind of obsessed with this color. And it's cotton, so I should be able to wear it well into the spring here in Arizona. And if you live in a hot place like Arizona or Texas or Florida or wherever, you know that a lot of corporate buildings, malls, restaurants keep the temperature at like 65, which is really cold. So even if you live in a hot place, you can still wear things like this year round in order to stay warm indoors because they keep things so cold. So those are what I'm working on right now. I'm also really wanting to make some tops, sewing some tops, sewing some skirts, and I feel like there's a sweater pattern that there's like 10, but I'm trying to think which ones I really want to make. Yeah, one of them I know is called like the Tired Homeschooler or something, and it's like a really big, oversized, chunky cardigan with pockets. It looks really, really soft and snuggly, and I've been a tired homeschooler before, so I feel like, even though I'm not a homeschooler anymore, I feel like this is a sweater for me. And then yes, I think that's about it. So as you can see, I still have my Christmas tree up. It's the 4th of January. Our tree only just stopped drinking water about 2 days ago, so now it's starting to dry out, but we actually had a very beautiful, fragrant, soft needled tree for about 2 weeks, which is really nice. I still buy a fresh tree. I know a lot of people think it's really wasteful. I know transporting it can be a bit expensive or wasteful, but it is a big industry, especially up in the Pacific Northwest, which is my home region. I'm originally from Oregon in the Portland area. So I love buying a tree thinking that it's come from the Northwest. But I think I'm about ready to start putting decorations away, even though we're still in Christmas time. We're almost done. The 12 days of Christmas are almost up, but I think I'm ready to move forward and get ready for the next holidays, which I think the next one coming up is Candlemas, which comes on Groundhog's Day. And Candlemas is kind of like in between winter, the official day of winter, and the official day of spring. So December 22nd and March 22nd, Candlemas is right in the middle. And so that is when you really start seeing the return to light, and you look forward to the return of the light and the lengthening of the days and the warmer weather that is to come. That makes sense to many people in the Northern Hemisphere, except for us, because right now in Phoenix, it's about 75 degrees. The sun is blazing in. So we're already having bright, sunny days. already. Our winter time is very, very short. So, yeah, I've enjoyed talking about my knitting. I've enjoyed sharing my ideas and creativity with you. I hope that this year we can really, all of us, come together again in real life, in person. I hope we can change this world for the better. I think that by making our own clothes and becoming more self-sufficient and being more resourceful is a wonderful thing, and is something that will really help our world. It will help us be better consumers, better neighbors. It'll help us really depend on ourselves, which I think is something we really need to do right now. Is really find I think a lot of us have found that inner strength this year, right? 2020 stretched us in ways that were pretty incredible. I know for me, I feel so much more capable and strong than I did previously, and realize that many things will have to be taken up by me because no one else is going to do it for me, right? So if we can all stand up and work hard and continue to care for one another, I know that all this craziness and divisiveness will someday pass, right? And in the meantime, we can make all the things. We can knit, we can sew, we can crochet, we can create things for ourselves and for loved ones, and let's just work on doing that. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to make another episode sooner than 8 months or whatever, however long it took me, so that this can be a more regular thing to view, and maybe I can share more about what it is to be a knitter in Phoenix, which is unusual. I'm the only one I know who knits. I know there's others, but I don't know any people personally. So if you guys know some people, send them my way. Send me a message, leave a comment. Let me know what you're making, and I will talk to you next time.